fucking rolling now. Okay.
My name is Keenan.
I'm Madison Jameson.
My name is Trevor Gibson.
I watch movies many ways. As far as medium, I do like to collect Blu-rays. This is Millennium Actress. This is Satoshi Kon. It's a steel book. I buy more than I watch on physical, but I do prefer the experience of sitting down, putting a movie in, kind of enjoying the special features, and really taking in the whole thing as a piece of artwork in its own.
I find myself watching movies on iPads at work, or on the TV, on cable, just however I can find, but I grew up DVDs and VHSs.
I watch them through streaming services, DVDs, and like theaters. It's the average norm.
I always think if you have the opportunity to boot up a 4K disc of a movie that you're excited to watch into whatever device you have to watch it on, maybe get some nice dinner, some friends, whatever might make the night even more fun. I think that is the best possible way. It's almost like a ritual. Even just looking through a selection of discs, whether it's a shelf of DVDs or that little binder full of DVDs without a case, you know, that sometimes that's more fun than the movie itself. So I definitely think, you know, DVDs in a player, that's where it's at.
A lot of these streaming services, like, yeah, they're high quality and it's instant, but like, depending on your internet speed, there's always a bitrate issue. I think I noticed this particularly on Netflix, that like, even if it's in 4K, it's still got like weird chunks of pixels that aren't loading in properly, and when you put in a DVD or a Blu-ray, it's the entire, you know, resolution and all the pixels being played exactly the moment that they're supposed to play with no modification whatsoever, and it's like the purest form of the video.
How often do you buy physical media?
It used to be a lot more often. I do not have a lot of money to spend on my hobby. When I kind of first moved out here, every month I would probably make a couple visits to a thrift store or some kind of movie store. There's a lot of great places on Magnolia over here in Burbank.
There haven't been a lot of movies I've seen and a lot of movies that I've like preferably enjoyed to make me buy a movie.
But like, trying it is getting increasingly harder to find them. I know some of my fondest memories come from going to Goodwill with my mom and just getting as big a stack of DVDs as she'd let me get. Nowadays, I'll look online, see if there's a good listing for a movie I've been wanting for a while, order it there, when I could be just pirating it or finding it on a streaming service, but you know, nothing really compares to just holding it and having it there and it's mine, you know.
How do you feel about the decline of physical media via sales and productions, such as Best Buy stopping the sale of movies in store?
It really makes me sad. The sales are declining, and they're using those numbers to decide to take them out of stores. And if you take them out of stores, they're going to sell even less, and so people won't get them. People think they own a lot of their movies, but when you own something on iTunes, you don't really own it. Apple owns it. You're just kind of like paying for the right to have access to them. No one can take a copy from my shelf away from me without, you know, physically stealing it. And I think preservation is really important. I mean, as we can see with like Warner Brothers, they can just take these films off of their streaming services as a tax write-off, and then they become completely inaccessible and no one can do anything about it. But like, I can make physical rips of these, like they can last forever, whether that's digitally or physically. And I think preservation is really important, and physical is a great way to maintain that.
I think it's dumb because I think you should always be able to have a physical like disc of something that you want to watch, because again, if your internet goes down or a streaming service closes, like, how are you going to watch that movie? For one movie specifically on Netflix called Hush, or it was there, it was only a streaming related movie and now it does not exist anymore. So it's like, I wish I had a DVD of that movie because it's one of my favorite movies. by one of my favorite directors. So.
Did you know that Costco used to sell physical media until 2018?
I did, because I shopped there a lot with my family and stuff when I was younger, and still now because I happen to have a Costco membership. But I didn't even realize that like they don't sell any anymore. But that makes sense. Like as I remember walking in recently, like it's mainly just TVs, but there's no movies to accompany those TVs.
Back when I lived in San Diego, that was like one of the places I would get, or I would at least shop for movies because they had a good selection. It's sad to see them go.
As soon as I figured out they were selling it, I figured out they weren't selling it anymore. That's really depressing. There's not really a place to go for movies anymore, specifically that isn't like a niche record store or the one Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, right? Yeah. There's just not a place for it for DVDs anymore. They've been phased out by Netflix and every other streaming service.
What are your favorite places to buy movies on physical media? In addition to that, what locations would you recommend to others to expand their physical media collection?
Check out Hollywood Book and Poster that's on Magnolia Street. It's right by Blast from the Past. They're classic, like full-blown media distributor. They have tons of Blu-rays and also cool t-shirts and posters and stuff. But really, any thrift store local to you is going to have a movie section of unwanted movies, and go rescue them. So,
as I mentioned before, growing up, I'd go to Goodwill, just get as many DVDs as I could. If you want higher quality DVDs, the record store on Hollywood, what's the name of that one? Yeah. Amoeba Records. That one's super nice. That is huge, plenty to look around and see, and just going through it all, it is next level.
I mean, anywhere is good to buy a DVD. Like, I mainly go to like Targets or Best Buys, but Best Buys doesn't do physical media anymore. But anything like that, I don't like getting them off of like Amazon or shipping or related stores, because you never know if like the disc is going to be broken by the time it shows up.
Last but certainly not the least, what do you think the state of the movie industry will be without physical media?
I think it's going to decline a little bit, because again, internet could just go down, and it could be down for a while. We never know. Like a satellite could just explode and we're going to have a problem. Like, physical media is the best option to ever have. I think physical media is very important because it's a way to keep things versus having them just be erased from existence.
Interested in what Warner Brothers is doing right now and what they're kind of setting the precedent. It seems like people very much dislike what they're doing, and I'm wondering if long-term companies like Disney and Netflix are going to kind of jump on board with the Warner Brothers method and kind of not release things in the theaters and kind of take them off their site if they don't do well. And I think this is really bad, because I think movies are going to have less of a chance to have that cult following, that secondhand thing. A lot of movies bombed at the box office and then became incredibly big hits, like Fight Club and Blade Runner and Evil Dead, and it's like, these are classic movies that have like changed cinema, but they only could do that once they had a second life on physical and some stuff like streaming. With people not going to the theaters as much and also not being able to own their movies physically, it's going to kind of really, really hurt the film industry long term.
Crappy movies aren't selling well, and good movies continue to get good reception. So I want to believe that at a certain point things will turn around and they'll see what matters in this industry and why we need to preserve this art form as much as possible.